5 years ago, we shared a tutorial on how to save peonies for 2 to 3 months in your fridge. It's linked up here if you want to go back and watch it, or you can wait until the end. I'll have it at the end as well. Since then, we've had a lot of questions about what to do when you're ready to get them out of the fridge. So we thought we would just address some of those frequently asked questions today. If you stick around to the end, I'll also let you know what our favorite varieties are. But first, how do you say peony? It's the most awkward thing to try to pronounce correctly. So if I say it wrong, no, I didn't. I've heard some interesting pronunciations down through the years. Peony, that's probably the most common one. Peony, piney, pony, or peonies. Google says the correct pronunciation is peony, but frankly, I think we just need to come up with a new name altogether. Be that as it may, let's get into some of the questions everybody has when it's time to get peonies out of the refrigerator. Question number 1. How many days does it take them to open once you get them out of the fridge? So that depends on how open they were when you cut them before you put them in the fridge. But I would say if you got them at the right stage, at the marshmallow stage, they take about a day or two to really open up. Some varieties may take longer, especially if they're cut too firm, and we'll talk more about that later. If they open too fast, you can always put them back in the fridge or in a cool, dark room. If they open too slow, we will put them in a bucket right by a window and maybe crank up the temperature just a little bit. Question number 2, do I put them in warm or cool water? We recommend cool water in a clean bucket or vase that also has some flower food in it, if possible. We think flower food helps them to last a little bit longer. Always give the stems a fresh cut. I usually take about 2 inches off the bottom before I put them in water. Question number 3. How long will they last once I take them out? And this is a question that people have when they're saving them for an event or because, you want them to open, but you don't want them to open too far. Ours typically last about 5 to 7 days if you get them in the right stage, once we get them out of the fridge. Question number 4. How long should the stems be when I harvest them? Always cut too long versus too short. We say to cut deeply into the plant. We usually aim for about 24 inches stem length. You want to just make sure that you leave at least 2 sets of leaves on the stalk for food for the next year. Then before you put them in the fridge, I would remove all but the top 2 leaves just to help them store a little bit better. And question number 5. I've had them out for days, but why aren't they opening? Unfortunately, that probably means that you cut them too green or too tight, and they may not open. When harvesting, make sure to cut the peonies when they are in the squishy marshmallow stage, or when they've almost begun to unfurl. We've made the mistake of cutting them too tight too. And if you have several varieties like we do, you'll soon realize that the squishy marshmallow stage varies a little bit for the different varieties. So here's a few things to keep in mind. If you have single or anemone style peonies, they don't have as many petals as like the full double, like a Sarah Bernhardt. So you're going to cut them a little bit tighter. You should still be able to see the color of the peony before cutting. And ideally, a petal or 2 will have come loose from the bud. That's like the perfect stage for that kind. The Sarah Bernhardts are the squishy marshmallow, and go watch our earlier video if you want to know what that looks like. If you're saving them for an event, it's best to cut them too far open than not open enough. You'll want to harvest several times a day as well, because if it's a sunny or a warm day, they're going to be opening up throughout the day. So they're going to hit the perfect stage, different times throughout the day. I would check them in the morning around noon and then maybe like 5 in the evening or so. If they've been rained on, you want to turn them upside down and give them a little shake to get the water out, just because too much moisture will cause them to rot in storage. We prefer our peonies to have a slightly cupped shape as opposed to fully blown open for wedding arrangements, especially for bridal bouquets. So if it's a single or anemone variety, we've already arranged them in the soft bud stage, put them back in the fridge, and then got them out just before we handed them to the bride. And then they slowly just open to the perfect stage as the day goes on. Okay, on to our favorites. We both moved to new gardens in 2022. But we liked these so much, we went back to our old garden a few years ago and dug them up and hauled those heavy root balls to our new gardens. These are tried and true favorites. I think my all-time favorite is Sarah Bernhardt. And she's a fluffy, light pink peony, very fragrant, and produces a lot of blooms. We have both the lighter and the darker Sarah Bernhardt variety, and I think together they make a stunning bouquet. We grow several whites as well. Let's see if I can say this one. Duchesse de Nemours. We just call her the Duchess, but she's a creamy white with delicate fragrance that suggests the Duchess might have just walked by. I think she smells really good. Some peonies are pretty strong, but this is a good fragrance. The stems on this one do tend to flop with the weight of open flowers and buds, especially if it rains, so keep that in mind. You can support them in some way. Next is Armani. When we bought our first round of peonies in 2015, Moody bouquets were big. We settled on this dark red peony for that reason, but we liked it enough that we've kept it even after that trend has passed. Next, we have Shirley Temple. We wanted a fluffy, pure white peony for wedding work, and this one has served us well. The buds are a little bit pink, so you'll think it's a pink one, but when she opens, it's just a full, stunning white peony. And last on my list is Coral Charm. Now, coral and sage weddings were also big when we got our peonies. The supplier was sold out of Coral Charm, so I think we actually got Coral Sunset, which I don't think is quite as pretty as Coral Charm. And so we actually dug and sold most of those a number of years ago. But I do still love Coral Charm, and I want to get a few more for my garden here. She makes a lovely spring bouquet. Pair it with white and gold or yellow. But be warned, her breath is very stinky. She does not smell good. All right, keep the conversation going below. What are your favorite varieties to grow? How long have you been able to keep peonies in the fridge? We max out at about 2 months. They start going downhill after that. And most importantly, how do you say peony? Some of these we can save, but most of these are too far down. It's fine. Muzzle not the ox. The method, the motto of this year, I am going to enjoy every flower that I can next year, even if not this year. No. Morgan and I were talking about that the other day. He laughed a little nervously, perhaps, but he laughed. No, he said we're not on a timeline. Keep saying. And get wet. Yeah. These are pretty taking pictures of these shots as well.
Look at me.
I feel silly.
Shouldn't.